many of you know somebody that has a tattoo? Oh! Now, I don't even want to ask the other question. How many of you have a tattoo? All right, some of we have tattoos. All right. And one of the things that we know is, what do we use? We can call it a tattoo, or we may say that I am inked, right? Okay, I'm inked. Okay, or I have I've committed myself to some skin art, right? Okay, and so, or it could just be I'm covered in tats, right? Okay, so you can be inked, you can have skin art, you can have tats, but tattooing has a long, long tradition. Now, it's not one that in the Jewish tradition was accepted, but one of the things in all through history, there have been people that have used tattoos for identification. So, for instance, in the concentration camps during World War II, the Jewish people were tattooed on their arms. A number was tattooed in their arm. Now, that was not a good tattoo, but it was a way of identifying them, identifying the Jewish people who were in the concentration camps. And so the tattoo became a symbol for them of oppression and destruction. It was not a good symbol at all. And then, a lot of times in the old days, the slaves were marked, and they had a mark on them, sometimes even on their forehead, that said, tax paid. Tax paid. And so when someone saw them, they knew that they were owned by someone. And that tattoo became a symbol of, again, it became a symbol because a bad symbol, because we recognize the freedom and the dignity of each person. And that no one should own another person. Sometimes during many of the early days prior to the Civil War, sometimes slaves were tattooed on their forehead, and it said, "Stop me, I am a runaway." And that came from a long, long tradition way back in Rome, where the gladiators were marked across their forehead or their chest with the words, "Stop me, I am a runaway," because they belonged and they were possessed by the emperor or by the king, and that tradition carried on into our world. Not a good tradition. Not a good tradition. The Indians, Native Americans, many times tattooed themselves according to their tribe. It became a way to identify which tribe you belong to. And so that tattoo became a source of identification. So there was all kinds of ways that tattoos have been used, good ways and bad ways for identification. And one of the things that we come here today is because on Ash Wednesday, even though we're not going to be tattooed in the literal sense of the word, we are going to receive ashes on our forehead in the sign of the cross. And that becomes almost a symbol or a tattoo for us today to remind us that we belong to Christ. We totally belong to Christ. And in that we share that, but we belong to Christ. Why? Not because of oppression, not because Jesus owns us in that sense of a slave, but because Christ shares his life. Jesus shares his life with us, and loves us so much that he wants to identify himself with us, and we identify with Jesus. And so when we say the sign, make the sign of the cross on your forehead, it's like putting a tattoo on your forehead and reminding you that when you walk down the hall today, when you go to the dining room, you're going to be saying, I belong to Christ because Jesus loves me. And the other thing we're going to say is when we put the ashes on your forehead, we're going to say, remember that you are dust, and into dust you shall return. And the reason we do that is a reminder that we are very fragile. We are very fragile people. We can break very easily. We can be hurt very easily. We can hurt each other very easily. And Lent, when we sign ourselves with Christ and we say we belong to Jesus, then we also pledge that tattoo, which even though it will be washed off, will be in kind of an indelible mark on our forehead. It will remind us that we need to take care of each other, and we need to be gentle with each other because we are so fragile. And so if we make that a part of our mission during Lent, to remember who we belong to and why we belong. We belong to Jesus. Why do we belong? Because Jesus loves us. And that we also are fragile and we need to take care of each other. And as we do that, then we'll journey through Lent. And when we get to Easter, we're going to be much stronger people. We're going to be much stronger Christians because our faith will not only be tattooed into on our forehead, but it will be tattooed into our